The motherfucking Kaleidoscope Kid! Let's go! There he is! There he is! Everyone! Hey! We're doing things! We're doing things! Alright, we're going back to regular view here. All right, Morby, you have a good day. I hope you do well. Good luck on your day. I hope you get some. So we got a live chat here going, and it's probably too small for you to see, but it's down there scrolling across underneath the yellow stuff down there. So I don't know. You might be able to read it. You might not. I'm sorry, but it's there. It's there if you want to see it. But anyways, man, you were in the studio burning the midnight oil. How did the session go?
It was a good session. It was great. Had some good people in there, so can't complain.
Yeah. Now, do you work a lot with producers, and do you work with a lot of how do you go about like writing and stuff? What is your method?
I'm pretty to myself. Like I produce all my own beats and record myself, mix myself, all that
Wow.
stuff. So a lot of times when I'm in the studio with other people, it's more like on the production side. Like I'll be helping out with them, or just there to help engineer and things like that. So
That's dope, man. How long have you been into engineering and mixing and stuff like that? Because that takes some skill, especially production. Like, like Watermelon Kisses. Is that your production?
yeah, yeah.
Holy shit,
Yeah.
man! I really fucking dig it, man. That is really cool. But how long you been doing it?
So like when I first started making music, it was probably like 7 or 8 years ago. I picked up the guitar, and I wanted to write some music, and I didn't know where to get beats, so I was like, all right, I'm just gonna make some. Uh,
Yeah.
and it just it's interesting because I was making beats out of the necessity,
Yes.
but the focus was so on the lyricism that when I got to 5 or 6 years down the road, I was like, damn, without even kind of putting any intention to it, I felt like I'd really developed as a producer, as in a lot of the musical realms. So
Yeah, I mean, I hear a lot of old school beats going on, old school hip hop. I hear a lot of new stuff too, like lo-fi. I mean, what are some of your influences as a producer?
um I mean, I feel like I'm really like I follow my curiosity a lot of the times, and so I feel like I'm never trying to just do one thing. I'm always just bouncing around, whether it's like making hip hop stuff over here, or making like punk stuff over here, or making folk stuff over here. So,
Oh, dope.
like I just love any instrument that gets put in front of me. I'm like, yeah, let's mess around with it. Let's see what we can do.
Yeah, man, and like it's cool that you sort of only been in it for just a few years. It's like you said 7 or 8 years. I mean, it sounds like you put in a lot of time in those years. I mean, I know musicians, guitarists who will start out and they're 3 years in and they're hitting jazz runs and shit. But I mean, it really is about how much time and effort you put into your craft. I mean, if you're sitting there obsessing every fucking day, all day, every day, you're gonna get far quickly. So like it's really funny when you see people who like I've been playing guitar for 25 years and they're still like and I'm not shitting on people and their abilities, but like they're not holding it right, they're fucking and it's just like, well, you've been playing it for 25 years, but you been like learning, have you been working on the skill? I mean, what are you like watching TV and just like plunking around? Like like it really is about the focus and the intent of what you're trying to do. Was that
Yeah.
you? Was that what you were doing?
Yeah, I so when I picked up the guitar, it was probably like a month or two. I remember I picked it up and I was like, all right, I'm gonna learn a song all the way through, learn how to sing it and play it. And it was Pink Floyd, "Wish You Were Here."
Nice.
And so I learned that one song, and I was like, all right, I could write a song. And so I just started like kind of messing around with that. And then it was probably about 2 months after I really started to like just fall in love with the guitar that I ended up getting really fucking sick. I ended up in the hospital for like 5 days. They did not know what was going to happen to me, and in that there was like I was diagnosed with this. diagnosed with an autoimmune disease, but they really didn't know what it was. They gave me this kind of symptomatic diagnosis, like, well, it might be this, it might be that, but like the antibiotics and things we're giving you are helping right now keep you alive, and you need to go, see a rheumatologist or do this, that, and the other. But when I got out of the hospital, I had like a month of recovery, and a lot of what had happened to me, it was my body was eating itself from the inside out, and so a lot of I could hardly eat food, let alone like sing or do things like that. So I was like not able to sleep much and things like that. There was just a lot of stress going on, and so I would pick up the guitar and I would just write in my journal, write songs and stuff like that. And anytime I pick up the guitar, all the pain, all the, thinking in the future, thinking in the past went away. It was just like I was present right there. So I always say that's where it transitioned from being a hobby to being an obsession. Like it
Yeah.
became an obsession.
Yeah, I mean, it has to be if you wanna do something, like people think of like obsessed as something as there's a negative connotation, right? But
Yeah,
I definitely believe that as long as you're directing that energy into something useful or positive, and obsession is a very useful thing. Now, people can go a little far where it's like they don't eat and like, not shower and they're just like, I got to get this masterpiece done, and it's just like, they ignore family, ignore
yeah,
friends, become reclusive. And so it can sort of transform into something that is negative, even if you are putting
totally.
your energy into something positive. But I really like that idea that you're saying is presence, like, it's really weird when I'm performing, like an hour set goes by, like you look around like, oh shit, what just happened?
Yep.
So it really does bring you to the present. It really does. That's a beautiful thing that I feel like a lot is missing. Do you meditate at all?
Yeah, definitely. Like I grew up doing Shaolin Kung Fu and Jiu-Jitsu and all these things. So from the time I was a little kid, I was always meditating. And as I got older, it's something that still stuck with me a lot. Like I definitely, I journal a lot, I meditate a lot, and yoga for me is kind of like a moving meditation as well. You know what
Yeah,
I mean?
for
Really
sure.
focusing on things like that. But yeah, definitely important to set aside that time for myself.
Wow. What now? Do you do like a mantra or like what is sort of how do you what's your method of it of
a lot
meditating?
a lot of it is kind of there. I do have a few mantras, but something that I've been really felt like connected to over the past year has been the Wim Hof breathing exercises. I'm not sure if you're
Yeah,
familiar with
the
any of that.
Iceman is that?
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And doing the breath work exercises really the way that they looked at it when they were measuring people's brains or whatever, it was like what would take people who have been practicing meditation, kind of transcendental meditation and stuff for years, you could get to the same brain wavelengths. Like I can't remember, it's gamma or whatever it is, but
Mhm.
pretty much you could get to the same state as they were within, with just these breathing exercises and things. And so there's such like a physiological process when you go through it and stuff that afterwards, um, it's like you can't deny it. Sometimes you'll meditate and you'll be like, well, I just sat there. But when you do that and you get done, you're like, I am very clear right now, very here, very much like in my body, not in my thinking mind, like things like that. So that's been something that's really been helping me, I feel like.
Yeah, that dude's wild, man. That dude,
Crazy.
that dude is wild. Like, what did he do? He like climbed what was it?
No, never.
Mount
In a pair of
Everest.
shorts, flip flops, pretty much.
That is fucking like who the fuck in flip flops and shorts is climbing Mount Everest. It's like, and it's just like he's like, I'm just breathing, bro. I'm just
Yeah.
breathing.
Yeah.
It's like that is so beyond like that just seems so superhuman, and it's very interesting that that's the thing that you sort of latched onto. How did you come across Wim Hof?
Um, damn, I don't even know. I've always been like I was living in out of my truck pretty much in the middle of the woods for a long time, out in Sedona, Arizona. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that.
I
I
am.
was so like Sedona, I was there for a long time. I was in Maui living on an abandoned pineapple field out there for a while, just doing stuff. And so I've always been kind of around eccentric people.
Right.
As much as I would not call myself a hippie or things like that, I've been around that kind of thing. So people have put me on, and when I got sick, I had this that autoimmune disease. Um, it was it was to the point where they were going to pretty much put me on infusions of what's known as methotrexate, which
Oh.
is like a low dose of chemotherapy, a
Oof.
variation of it, because the body was attacking itself so drastically that, um, like the way I put it is like when a dog gets parvo, they don't necessarily die from parvo. They die because they can't eat, they can't drink, they can't hold anything down. So they eventually just become so malnourished.
Yeah.
And that's what was going on with me, is that it was so destructive that it was like if you've ever burned yourself and get like a little like water blister kind of thing,
Yeah.
and you get in the shower, it stings. You know what I mean? It burns.
Mm.
These essentially, when I got checked in the hospital, they said you had a third-degree burn on the entire mucous membrane of your body. So it was through my entire mouth, through my throat, into my internal organs. It was through my ears, on my eyes, and then after it had kind of done a lot of damage. Like it had done some irreversible damage to my eyes. I lost a lot of like my capacity to see. And then once it kind of like had taken over the inside, it started to consume the outside as well. So if you can imagine, it was really hard to drink, even water. It was like kind of like, all right, like to put it down. And I was taking, there was probably like at least a 2-3 week period where I was living off of fluids because I couldn't consume anything as well. And then when I could start eating again, very limited amount, I would go get like those little like squeeze pouches of baby food and just
Mm.
shoot them down and just try and get past the pain for a moment. So that I've seen my parents deal with autoimmune diseases and things over the years, and have this pharmacopoeia of medicine in front of them that they have to take, and these shots and stuff. And I was not trying to go down that route, and so I was like, well, if this thing kills me, it's gonna kill me. But I'm gonna go. In Sedona, there's a lot of resources for people who have different forms of like holistic approaches to things.
Mm.
And a buddy of mine actually introduced me to this guy, Daniel Vitalis, who has a podcast called Rewild Yourself. And in it, he was talking about all these elixirs, like these crazy elixirs, like stuff that you would never even hear of. You're like, what kind of berry is that? What kind of thing is that? Like, what herb is that? And one of them was it was called reishi mushroom. This was like 5 or 6 years ago. Nowadays, in the past 5 or 6 years, it's become a lot more popularized. You see it in like coffee drinks. You see it
Yeah.
in certain supplements and things like that. And in Chinese medicine, it's known as the mushroom of immortality. But how he described it was an autoimmune system re-educator. So whether your immune system was too high or too low, it would give your body the intelligence that it needed to kind of balance itself out again. And I was like, I took some. I had another flare up a few months later, and they had given me some prescriptions and stuff like that. And I was like, still seeking alternatives. And I tried the reishi mushroom, and within like 3 days, it had accomplished what was taking the medicine like weeks to do. And I was in disbelief, really. And also in the podcast, he had talked about mushrooms, fungus of any type, when they're combined with vitamin C. For some reason, your body is easy. It's more readily available, the nutrients of the mushroom. So like it's 8 to 10 times more absorbable than without the vitamin C. So he recommended this berry called camu berry, which is extremely high in vitamin C. And so I was taking the vitamin C, the camu berry, and the reishi mushrooms, and I remember like having that moment where I realized that it was doing what it was supposed to. And I was like, what can't mushrooms do? Like
Yeah.
like I was like, oh my God, you know what I mean? And so I feel like that was such a significant moment for me, that it opened me up to always like kind of staying tuned into different forms of what I'm not into, like Reiki or this, that, and the other, but like what the earth can provide us and these things that are here around us, I think is very incredible.
Yeah, well, I mean, when you think about it, we are of the earth, right? We are one with the earth. Like that's where we come from. We're just stardust, right? Just fucking. We've all just come from the same place, same thing. So it only makes sense that what can heal us comes from it as well.
Yep.
And I have a big mistrust too with the pharmaceutical industry. I mean, like
Yeah.
like fuck Pfizer, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like fuck all of them, and they have so they've just that that they've it's been so apparent that they've lied and they've hurt people through their medicine. Their trials and are always fucked up. And
Brought to you by Pfizer. Fuck you. Pay me.
thank you, Reina.
Damn, that was clutch. That was
That was fun.
fire.
I forgot that I had that.
That was so good. I was like, how did you pull that one off? Like,
Oh yeah, thank you, Pfizer, for sponsoring this show. Go fuck yourself, Pfizer. You can eat a dick. No, no, but for real, like I do believe that a lot of these, and not to say that not that these drug companies don't have drugs that help people. You know what I mean? Because they do. But
yeah.
I see why you have such a mistrust. You know what I mean? Like
Mhm.
especially when you said you've seen your parents go through what you kind of were going through, and you didn't want to go down that road. I never did either, and then I submitted to antidepressants. So, but they help, and so like that's
Yeah.
why I have to say it's like it's not all bad, but it definitely is. There is a lot of shadiness. There's a lot of shitty
Yeah.
sides to that industry that I
The
can
money
understand.
it causes just your values to not like always be there, I feel like.
Right, money is
Yeah.
that driving force. Yeah, yeah, it is a case by case situation, but Reina, but it definitely is because everybody's body's different. Everybody's body
Yep.
responds to different chemicals. So, like I think that's amazing that you're able to take the reishi mushroom and find some solace in that. So, Sedona. Now, yeah, I'm familiar with Sedona. Now, is Sedona the place where people are, where there's like they do, like will they'll talk to the dead and like have sort of, there's like this weird energy there that sort of draws people. There's a lot of, is that the place? Or
Yeah, it's vortexes and people, a
yes,
lot of crystal shops and people, past life regressions and Reiki and all sorts of stuff like that. So,
yeah.
so yeah.
That's awesome, man. I know there's like another place in Florida that sort of has that sort of energy that draws people there too. There's this band called Bright Eyes. If you I don't know if you're familiar with them,
I've
but
definitely heard the name.
they had a what was the name of the album? But they had this album where they're talking about where the guy Connor Oberst, the lead singer, sort of he went on this pilgrimage to like these different places that were known for these different energies and in Sedona, and then this I can't remember what the fuck the place is in Florida, but there's another place in Florida. Just traveling around, just sort of trying to seek, just finding musicians like yourself. You ended up in Maui, which is interesting. What how do you end up in Maui on an
We
abandoned pineapple farm?
we were my girlfriend and I at the time, we were living in Sedona and we had been there for like 2 or 3 years. And we were like, let's just go do something new. Even when we moved to Sedona, it was like we went up there one time. And originally I was going up there to collect spring water. There's a lot of fresh springs out there. So there was I was really interested in getting living water and water that was coming out of these interesting places as well, because it's beautiful to just go there.
Yeah.
And we went up there and we took LSD one time, and we were like, we need to move here. And so we just made it happen. We got like a really little trailer, like where your hand touches the ceiling, and it's like a little sardine can. And we lived out there for a minute, and then we got kicked out of that place because people were just always on psychedelics and doing crazy shit around there. And so we were there for a little bit. Then we lived in our truck on different there's a lot of dispersed camping sites around there outside of Sedona.
Hmm.
So we would just go out there, camp out there every day, set up a tent in a new spot, go on, head on the north side of it, head on the south side of it. And there's a huge change in elevation. So like you get up to Flagstaff up north and it turns into just pine trees and snow during the winter. And
Yeah.
then further south, it's more the desert with these red rocks and stuff like
The
that.
rim,
So
right? That's what they call it.
yeah,
Yeah.
yep. So yeah, it was beautiful. And then with when we went to Maui, we had saved up some money. You know, it's like you're not spending too much money if you don't have bills for a house payment and stuff like
Right.
that. So, and we were working and doing our stuff out there. And we were like, let's go to Maui. She was interested in taking some yoga classes out there, some different to get certified in some different ones. And we shipped our car out on a boat, and we took our dog on the plane with us. He sat right next to us, and flew out to Maui. And like, well, let's see what happens. And so it was kind of it was a very humbling experience. It's the cost of living out there is ridiculous. And so we were camping on the beaches for the first month or so, and then we ended up finding this older lady. I don't know where she found this place, but it was like I mean, probably like 8 foot by 8 foot shack with 3 walls and a mosquito net on the front. And it had like a water tank and a little septic tank down there, like which was mainly for, like she's like, don't use it a lot, but it's there if you need it.
Yeah.
And we found that place, and I think it was $700 a month. And
Jesus.
she was like, can you watch my cat? And so it was like this. Yeah, you had to. It was on the road to Hana, all the way out, like pretty much in the jungle at that part. There's not a lot of houses and things out there. And you go to this dirt road, unlock this gate, drive like a mile on this dirt road, and there's that little shack. And there was one other house down below where there were some crazy people who lived there, some really cool people, but just like out there. And it was you would walk out probably like a quarter mile, a half mile on this pineapple field. And it was an abandoned Dole pineapple field. And it would go to the edge of these cliffs. And in front of it is a really iconic surf spot called Jaws. And the waves there are some of the biggest waves in the world. So we'd walk out there and just eat dinner and watch these just giant waves and hang out. And we were there for probably like 5-6 months. And I was like, yo, and I was just kind of getting into the music, and it was starting to just have a little bit more importance in my life. Like it was like, okay, there's something in here. And I was like, I'm not going to be able to do this if I'm in Maui. Like I have to be on the mainland. If I have a show, I need to go over here. You know, as much as I just want to be off the grid and not have to deal with anything, like this is pulling me more than that is, and I need to follow it. So that resulted in us moving back to Sedona. And but yeah, Maui was really a humbling moment for sure. It like put all of my strengths and my weaknesses right out in front of me, and nowhere for them to hide, kind of thing. And so it was fucking cool for sure.
So, in which way were they putting your strengths and weaknesses? I know you said that it was nowhere for them to hide, but like, in which way?
Like it was like when I was in Sedona, I was comfortable, and then when I got out there, and I think in like the metaphysical perspective, the way what I related it to is because like in the cities and stuff like this idea of permanence, this false sense of permanence. Like you go to the store every day, and the buildings look the same, the streets look the same, and this looks the same, and it kind of takes away the idea that we're always changing as people and things like that. It gives you this false sense of that. And so when you're out in Maui, the trails are changing every day because everything's growing constantly and things like that. So it really reminds you of your impermanence in a way. And
Oh.
I think there's almost like an energy there that kind of like, it's like when you're there, you have to be like, it's gonna, it's wild, but it was definitely like, not what I expected. Like when I moved to Sedona, it was a big thing. And so when I went to Maui, I was like, oh, we'll be fine. And I got out there and I was like, yo, this is hard. I used to have to walk a mile on that dirt road to get to the Hana Highway, and then skate 3 miles on my skateboard down the Hana Highway, like next to cars, just to get to the bus stop, to take the bus back into town to go to work for 10-12 hours a day at a produce market, and then go back home. So it was like, and then I'd probably once a week get to go to the laundromat and go to the public pool and take a shower with a bunch of old dudes just chilling there and stuff. You know what I mean? It was
Yeah.
like, all right, we're in it.
Yeah.
We asked for it.
That's deep, son. That is
Yeah.
deep.
Yeah.
Fucking skateboarding. I mean, I like all of like the islands and stuff. Everyone sort of moves slow, anyways. Like so it's not like the cars are flying. But I mean, 50 miles an hour on a skateboard. That
Imagine like jackfruit on the ground and chickens
oh
running
yeah.
across the street. Like it's
Yeah, no, that's wild. That's wild. No, the other day I was watching my friend. She was streaming her ride into work in South Korea, and fucking she's just on the autobahn, just and these big ass buses and these big ass semis are just flying by it, and there's like no bike lane, and she's
oh
just
my
like do 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 do. And I'm like, it was nerve wracking just to watch her ride her fucking bike to work. It was, oh my god. Yeah, yeah, you know what, man? Because I used to live in San Diego, and I had to do some bike riding because our car broke, and is like, fuck, gotta go to work, gotta make that dollar. So it would be the same situation, but I stayed off the fucking freeways. But it was still like, luckily San Diego is a bike friendly city, so there was a lot of opportunity to go on bike paths and stuff. But Jesus Christ, people don't give a shit about anybody on the road. And like every day you would hear a new thing, a new reported on the newscast. Like it would go down, and it was like another biker is fucking killed just by like someone taking a left turn, and that's it.
yeah.
It's like, Jesus Christ. No respect, no
Yeah.
respect to
The
pedestrians.
road to Hana was cool because like everybody out there, like there's no such thing as time out there. Like
Yeah,
that's the best way to describe it.
yeah.
And everybody's really very nice. Like I would skate every day, and at least one person would stop. Like, you need a ride, man? Hop in the truck or something like
That's
that. You know what I
dope.
mean? Or
That's
something,
dope.
something. So it was cool. A lot of the times people were just, I was like, yeah, sure. Like, drop me off at the bus station.
Hell yeah, hell yeah. Did you experience any did anybody call you like Howley or anything? Did you experience any kind of stuff like that?
No, I think I don't drink alcohol, and I think that like
Mm,
I could imagine if I was at the bars or things like
right.
that, I might run into it. But I was at work, and then I was at home or like hiking or doing stuff like that. So I was not very social in that respect. And then
Mm,
anytime I would be around people, would be like some people jamming on their guitars in like a parking lot, and I'd walk up and play some stuff. So I feel like it was like, oh, cool, like at the music level, they're relating it,
yeah.
like that. So thankfully, I never experienced that. One of the things out there that was crazy to me was I saw like just the way like first off, there's a lot of drug use out there, like
Mm.
which was unexpected. Like every day I take the bus, somebody's asking if I got something, or if I need something.
What kind
And
of
then
drugs?
I mean everything, like
Oh,
from like weed to meth to
mm,
heroin to perks to whatever, And
Jesus.
so and then there's like there's a lot of tension out there too because of almost the colonization of it with like these huge buildings of the white man coming in and doing this. So
Yeah.
and then the cost of living is just ridiculous, and so people born there are almost born into this really vicious circle. So
Right.
you can it's I'm from Arizona, and it reminded me of like some of the things that are dealt with on the reservation and stuff like that my friends talk about. And so it was like that focused into an island, and it was like it was opened my heart to new perspectives for sure. And it was like, wow, like I almost don't even feel right being here, what I
Yeah.
mean, like in that sense.
Yeah. No, I feel that. I had a gig in Honolulu, and I know Honolulu is way more just infected with tourists and stuff like
Yeah,
that. But yeah, I mean it was very nice. But you did sort of see the blight and the what gentrification, I guess a
yeah,
massive gentrification can do to a local population. And it is weird, it is strange to see like because it wasn't that fucking long ago that we sort of rocked up in there and just was like, hey, this is ours now. This
yep.
is
No,
thank you.
crazy.
So
Yeah,
that they're just a couple generations removed from that now, and so like there is this resentment. You could feel that tension. You can feel that. What's up, moving Dutchman? Welcome in, buddy. Good to see you. But yeah, so how were you working with music? I mean, did you have electricity in your
yeah.
shack?
We got we bought a generator, And so we had a generator out there, and we had like a little like a convection oven, you know what I mean,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
a little refrigerator that we would just run for a few hours a day and just keep it closed and we would be very mindful of how we bought food and things like that.
Mm,
But and then like I'd go to work and charge everything up, and that would usually like get us through the night and stuff
yeah.
like that too, and download some movies or something like that if we wanted to watch something when we got back, because we're no way we're having service out there, that kind of thing.
Wow.
So
Cartagena, Moving Dutchman, thank you so much for gift subbing. Cartagena, thank you so much, my friend. I appreciate it. You generous, you moving Mexican. Thank you so much for being here, buddy. I appreciate that. I'm gonna give you some Gandalf. Oh no.
English Good TV. I'm your announcer, Sir Ian
Wait,
McKellen.
it's Ian
Now,
McKellen.
please, put your hands together for your host with the most, Mike E.
Downloading movies. You're
E.
damn right, Moving Dutchman. We're downloading movies, dude. That's a wild way to live, man. That is crazy. So how was your so you were working on music as well as working 10-hour days and traveling back and forth and
I was writing a lot of music out
Mhm.
there, and it's so funny looking back because all the music that I wrote while I was out there was probably some of like the most angry and dark kind of music I made. Like I felt like I was really it was almost like a purge.
Yeah.
Like it was like pulling it out of me. Like there was days walking to work where I was just so frustrated and so pissed off, and just like writing on my phone the whole time, you know what I mean? Or like and so it's interesting. You think you'd make some like dope, beautiful, inspiring music, but looking back, a lot of the songs, I don't think any of them are out. They were out, but I took a lot of stuff down.
Oh, really?
But 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 looking back at those songs, they're definitely like not what I expected to make going out there.
Yeah. Yeah. So then you decided that your pursuit of music was more than just, living on an island and dodging fucking jackfruit and shit.
Yeah.
Uh, so you moved back to Sedona, and when did you really start sort of digging into your craft and like, start producing and really, really taking that step like, hey, this is what I want and this is what I'm going to pursue.
Yeah. Yeah. When I got back out to Sedona, I had this really great setup. In like I talked about, in between Sedona and the Rim right there, there's this place called Oak Creek Canyon, and it's really kind of isolated. Like there's not a lot of, there's a few resorts and things out there, and maybe like like a patch of houses here that are really nice houses, like $1 million houses and stuff. And so I got a job out there at this place. It was called Butterfly Garden Inn, and they had 20 log cabins, and it was like this bed and breakfast. People would come stay. It had been there for over 100 years. Really beautiful aesthetic. And the guy who owned the canyon owned it was Slide Rock. That was 3 miles down the street from my house right there. And then exactly, I lived right in the middle of that canyon right there.
Shit.
Yeah, so that's where I was. And he owned, so if you look at the rim on the right side of that, there's another rim right on the left side. The property he owned went from rim to rim. So we had no neighbors all around us. The creek's right in front of our house. If you walked out in the front yard, you could just go get lost in the woods. You walk in the backyard, same thing. So so when I was out there, it was like I was working for him for a little bit, and he had employee housing it, which is something
Hell
I'm not.
yeah, that's sick.
And he kind of became like he really like, I have a great father, but he really was like a father figure as well, someone who was kind of like that mentor, who was just very grounded person and genuinely cared for people. And he was like, like, you've been such an asset to the team, like you kick ass, like I have a house that's opening up if you would be interested in staying there. And I was like, yeah. And at first we worked it out to where it was like $100 a week or something. And after like a month, he was like, dude, don't even worry about it. Like you do so much stuff. He's like, what the exchange was kind of like, here's a set of keys for the whole property. I just need you to be on call when I'm gone in the evening. So if somebody needs something in their, their toilet's clogged, or they need some a pilot light turned back on in one of the cabins, or this, that, and the other. So he didn't have to do that all the time. And so I was like, yeah, like I'll be here. I don't leave anyways. And so I was able to, when I got back there, I was and I had felt the contrast of not being able to make music how I was before.
Mhm.
I was like pedal to the floor. And then also I had 100% of my time to devote to it because like I was pretty much just would sit in my house with a walkie-talkie, and if they needed me, I'd go do some stuff, whether it was maintenance on the property or this, that, and the other, and I would help them in the kitchen or do this. So, but then like if, for instance, if I was working in the kitchen for like a 6-hour shift, it wasn't super busy, so I'd go over there and have some breakfast orders, and then it'd slow down, and I drive the golf cart back to the other side of the property, go work on music. Hey, there's an order in the kitchen. Drive the golf cart back over, go make a burrito, drop it off, and go back to the house, work on music, and the whole time I'm getting paid. So, so it was like it facilitated the space for me to completely focus on it, and I wasn't even thinking about like it as a career or anything like that. Like it was just purely like driven by my curiosity and by like just there was something I'd always been like creative in that sense. Like before I spent these 7 8 years on music, I had spent that much time painting and drawing and doing things of that. Like even now, like I do graphic design work for people and like a lot of sketching and all this stuff. And so I felt like I was always trying to find something to express myself, and music felt like this was the full spectrum where I could bring an element of everything, whether it was like designing the music videos, doing the artwork for the album or the singles. So it was like, this is all me. It's like, okay, I
Wow.
wrote the beat, I made the beat, wrote the song, made the artwork, developed the video concept, if not edited the video as well, because I grew up editing skate videos my entire life and things. So I'm super familiar with like Photoshop, Premiere, all this stuff, like taking classes in high school and things like that. So I was always, it felt like it encompassed who I was fully, and I feel like I'd always been looking for that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, that's amazing, man. That's really cool. I respect I respect the shit out of that. I respect that grind, that hustle of like of taking on a lot of the aspects of the creative process, with whether it's like creating the content or even putting it out and marketing it, however you do, which could just be the graphic design and stuff like that. I mean, there's a lot of hustle. Do you think that that's I don't know, like, would you suggest that to people to sort of take on that, to people who are kind of coming up right now, or just kind of getting into the game? Would you suggest that to them, or is that just something that just sort of worked out for you?
When I look at it, like I'm not like super tapped into like 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 for instance Mac Miller.
Mhm.
Um, I feel like because everything was coming from him, he was working a lot on the production side, with the riffs and everything like that. That's why it sounded the way it did.
Yeah.
So there was something that like it was you, because in your head you know what sounds good to you, kind of thing.
Right.
And so if you can work through that resistance and do it, you're going to get something that you're proud of at the end of the day, and that nobody else is going to be like, you can't pass the blame off to anyone else if it falls short. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And when it hits, it's all this, just like, this is just purely authentic with me. So I wouldn't, everybody has their different paths, but I think that's what it did for me. Was it's like the reason I feel like the music has even stood out is because it's just purely a reflection of me, as best that I found out how to share that with the world.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. No, that's a great way to put it. You mentioned resistance. What could you expand on that? Working past the resistance?
I'm not sure if you're familiar with the book, The War of Art, I believe it's called.
Yeah, sure.
And that was a book that was recommended. I love reading as well as something that I'm always interested in picking up a new book. And so I remember reading that one, and it was one of those ones where I'd always felt that, but I didn't have the words for it. And it was like, oh, okay, here's the map right in front
Mm.
of me. And so that is kind of like where, when I say resistance, it's like the resistance to, if you need to work out or in the morning and you're like, I could just sit here. It's like that little resistance to be like, no, show up, like go do
Yeah.
the thing. Or if, I'm sitting there and I feel the urge to just go play piano for some reason, I'm like, don't suppress that. Like, just go see what happens. And a lot of the times that's when something great would happen,
Mm.
or in that sense. So it's just, like stepping into your being uncomfortable.
Yeah, the who wrote that fucking book?
I can't remember his name.
Pressfield, Stephen Pressfield.
Yeah.
No, it's a fantastic book. I loved it. It was like and like kind of like showing up, and he talked about, you treat your art like it's your job, and you show
Yep.
up to your job and you fucking do it. And like even if you don't feel like doing it that day, you push through, and even if it's like he was a writer. So like even if it was just one page of something, you got to get something out. And even if it's dog shit, but like that's the only way to sort of summon the muse. I think he talked about the
Yep.
muse is to sort of like look at it like a job, do it every day. And even if you don't feel creative in that moment, you sort of have to push past the resistance, and that will access you to the muse, whatever it is that you tap into, that
Yep.
that is your creativity. What do you think it is that we're tapping into when we're
I
creating?
I think the way I look at it is like the idea and the theory, I suppose, of the Big Bang. It's like something coming from nothing, or this it's this explosion of creativity. And so if we are just like a lower um if you look at the sand dunes, right, in the desert, they have these beautiful waves to them and things like that. And Terrence McKenna described it as like a lower representation, a lower dimensional representation of the wind, because the wind is really what carved that. So it's like it is the same thing. So it's like if the universe is this expansive creation, then we are that as well in a lower dimensional form, or in a different sense of that. So I think that, and I'm not sure if you're familiar with Terrence McKenna,
I am food of the
and
gods.
yeah, and so like his novelty theory is, to me, really stuck out to me with the idea that the universe almost runs on new ideas.
Hmm.
And so it's always trying to reinvent itself. It's like the idea that time is speeding up, he described it was like, in 1,000 years where 10 things happen, or in 10 years where 1,000 things happen, what's faster? So it's not necessarily the time speeding up, but the amount of things that are happening in a moment. And so the universe is leading towards this, almost, it wants new, 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 new. And I almost feel like I'm also really probably one of the people that I'm most fond of is Alan Watts,
Hmm.
as far as like somebody who I can really go to and
Ram
just
Dass, is that Ram
I
Dass?
love Ram Dass as
Hmm.
well. Like Ram Dass and Alan Watts, I feel like they really
Oh,
bring
that's
to
not
some.
the same people, right?
No, no, no,
Yeah.
no.
Okay.
Yeah,
My bad. I thought.
but
What's Ram Dass? Because he was part of the Timothy Leary crew
Timothy.
at first.
Yeah, exactly. But Ram Dass and Alan Watts were great friends. They would take LSD together. They would have these great discussions and
Hmm.
things like that. So they were and the two of them both bring something to the table, in
Hmm.
that sense. And so I feel like those two are probably some of my biggest like gurus, if I were to say that.
Hmm.
But Alan Watts talks about the universe, like trusting the universe as you would trust another person, like someone you really trust. Like, I know you're going to go through with this. And a lot of the things I've done in my life, I would always describe it as a trust fall with the universe. Like, I know I'm going to get caught, but I have to surrender and actually drop in order for that to the universe to meet me there. So I feel like it knows that, and it feels that, and it almost I don't want to say reward, but reciprocates that, because that's what it's feeding off of, is new ideas. So when you meet it in that space, it's like, okay, you want to play? Let's play ball, like throw it back and forth. All right, cool.
Oh.
So I think that's kind of where it comes from for me. And it's like, you can't make a flower grow, but you can create the environment for it to grow. And so by showing up every day, that's creating the environment for it to grow. It's like, I can't make the song, but if I show up and I give it the nutrients, then today might be the day where it blooms, or where, oh, there's a little bud right there. Look at that. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So it's just like trying to show up and create that environment to where something can happen in the first place.
Yeah, yeah, beautifully said. No, I mean that makes so much sense. When you're dealing with that playing with it, and the back and forth,
Yeah.
and it's interesting, like how you're saying that, or at least Terrence McKenna was saying how there's like a play, or I'm sorry, there's like a craving for new ideas that sort of push the universe. I feel like those ideas are there for almost anyone to sort of tap into.
Hmm.
What's up, Sam? Stop with the shout out the Major Trumpet Strip Club, bro. Oh, it's GTA 5. That's what the Major Trumpet Strip Club is. Okay. Thanks, Sam. And thanks for being here, buddy. But we're not going and looking up the stupid fucking Major Strip Club. But I feel like it's sort of those things because it's really interesting when you have on one side of the world someone sort of has an idea that sort of pops up on the other side of the world as well. And there examples kind of escape me at this moment, but there are those things where even if you've had this idea where it's like you have this idea, you never acted on it, and then all of a sudden you see it out in the world, like, and you're like, holy
Yep.
shit, I thought of that too. Like, what, huh? So it is interesting. It's almost like a river of ideas or a river of energy that you can sort of tap into, and
Yep.
anybody can kind of tap into it, and it's almost like it's like race to the finish line. Who's going to get there first? If you want to go further with these ideas, it's like I have this this awesome idea for a keyboard case, which I'm not going to tell anybody, but but one day I want to, because it's almost like an experiment. If I don't do it first, it's like I'm waiting for someone to sort of come up with this idea because it's kind of so simple that I'm surprised it doesn't already exist, but it
Yep.
doesn't exist. So like I'm just sort of waiting to see who wins. Who's gonna win? Am I gonna win this one, or is someone else gonna win this one? But I thought I saw someone the other day, and I was like, oh, there it is. But it wasn't, and I was like, yes, my
Yep.
secret is safe still. Uh, but you talk a lot about psychedelics and I mean you mentioned LSD and moving Dutchman said take it that's when you're friends taking LSD together, buddies for life. Yes, indeed.
Yes.
Yes, indeed. Moving Dutchman. Oh my God, moving. You gave the troll a sub. You know what was interesting? Sam came in last time and he stayed for the whole show. So like I'm not hating on Sam. So Sam, welcome. I love your troll, and you had me look up the the Trumpet Major Strip Club. My kind of troll. So I appreciate you, buddy, for hanging out and coming back. Thank you so much. You're always welcome here. And you're always welcome to troll me with your shout outs to the Trumpet Major Strip Club. Because at this point, it's just fucking hilarious. But you talk a lot about and before we move on, and psychedelics, we're coming back to psychedelics. But before we move on, Moving Dutchman had a question, and Moving Dutchman is he's from over the pond, and so European, and so they have a different perspective on race and such. So and hip hop music in general, because hip hop is definitely a very American made type of music. So he's just curious, and he said, I have maybe a stupid question. It's not a stupid question, Moving Dutchman, but do black rappers look funny at white rappers, or is white and black united?
I mean, I've never personally experienced it. Like I've always felt really welcome in a lot of these spaces. Like, so it's something that like I've never personally experienced.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that there like anybody, there's always people who are gonna, hate on it, and be like you're appropriating or whatever the thing is of the week. But it's like I feel like it's a very American thing, and I feel like
Yeah,
America is sort of this, you want to think of it as a giant community, right? You want to think of us,
a
even though
melting pot.
right. You want to think of it like that, even though we're very fucking horribly
Yeah.
divided right now. But still, when you look into these hip hop worlds, and I come from the reggae world too. I was out in San Diego, playing around and in the reggae scene and playing Cal Roots and shit like that.
Mhm.
And like there was never any problems with that, what I mean? And you'd have these old Jamaican heads like Don Carlos coming out and fucking jamming with fucking the cats from Tribal Seeds, who are a bunch of fucking Mexicans, and Ian Young, he's a Mexican too, but he looks white as fuck. But still, like you got like you got like white people, black people, Mexicans. You got everybody sort of sharing in this moment and sharing in in just creation of music. And I feel like over the years with music and art has always led the way of breaking barriers that society has put up.
Yep.
Whether it's blacks, because at one time you wasn't allowed to have blacks in your band, but like here comes jazz music and blues music and all this different kind of music where white people, black people are all sort of combining together. And even in swing era, like Benny Goodman took Teddy Wilson and Lionel Hampton out on the road with them, and they're just like, "Fuck you, we're this is." It was beyond music. So I feel like
Yeah.
art and music has always sort of broken down those doors and those labels. And that's what's so great about art and culture, is like it influences each other. And so to say that people are appropriating, I find that so stupid. Like, I get
Yeah.
it. I get it. I try
Yeah.
to understand where people are coming from.
Because you
But
can see when people are, you know
yeah,
what I mean? But a lot of the times it's like, if you meet someone who speaks the same language as you, and not everyone does, so music's like a language, you
right.
immediately have a bond where you're like, oh, okay, cool. We can communicate in a way that I can't with everyone else. Like you understand what I'm,
Exactly.
saying. And I
Yeah.
always would say that art moves the culture,
Yeah.
and then I'd say drugs move art. So
And that sort of brings us back to
exactly.
the psychedelics, which you talk a lot about, and you've mentioned you took LSD with your girlfriend, and oh, you're welcome, Moving Dutchman. You're welcome for that complete answer. But you talk a lot about psychedelics, and I feel like psychedelics go really well with art, and it goes really well with this conversation, even when we're talking about this river of ideas, or working past resistance, summoning the muse and such. What role has psychedelics played in your art and your music?
Before I started playing the guitar, like I said, I was always doing artwork,
Mhm.
and that was really where drugs came into the picture. And it was like, a lot of times when I take a psychedelic, I would I take LSD for instance, and I would put my headphones in, and I would lay there for 6, 8 hours
Yeah.
and just listen to music. And I would do that for a few years. And I always said that in those experiences, I learned what I liked about music at like an intuitive level. Like I knew what sounded good to me, what I connected with, and things like that. So it was like at the emotional level, before I understood music or tried to play it or anything like that, I already had a very deep connection with music and how it had just saved my life on multiple occasions. And so uh, when I actually moved to Sedona, my dad doesn't play any instruments, but he bought a guitar, you know what I mean, one day, and was like, it was around the house. So when I moved, I was like, hey, can I take that guitar with you? Because I don't have a TV or nothing. So I'm just trying to make sure I got stuff to do and keep me occupied. And for the first year, that guitar probably just sat under the bed or sat in the corner of the room or something. And I was on mushrooms one day, and I leaned over and grabbed the guitar and just had it laying on the ground. It was just kind of plucking at the strings. And the state I was in, it was just this incredible, um, basically like string theory vibrations coming off of it. You know what I mean? That were manipulating the environment around me in this kind of way. And it was such an interesting experience that it was like probably the next day I was like, all right, I got to tune this thing and learn this song. Like, what is, you know what I mean? That was incredible. And so psychedelics have played a huge role. I was uh, they for the first few years, it was just like taking them and not making music. Like I didn't really do that much. It was like I would just take them, and then maybe later that would inspire something, or that would give me the headspace to be able to sit down and be very present with what I'm doing and things like that. But then it was probably like 2 years ago. Uh, I got asked to work with out of this studio in Phoenix, and there's these guys. They're called Odd Squad Family, incredibly dope band, hip hop group, and so I was like, cool. Like, can I sleep on the couch in the studio? Because I don't have a place out there. And they're like, yeah, you know what I mean. So I went out there, and before that, I had spent the first 5 years just making music by myself. I never really collaborated with people other than like the occasional campfire jam or something like that, you know. And so I had kind of taken that time to sharpen my swords and to learn what I liked and how I was approaching things. And then that was the next chapter, the next evolution of it. And I got to Phoenix, and the goal was to just work with, you know, my favorite people out there, some of the artists that I thought were really doing great things. And there's an album that I have called All Dogs Go to Heaven, and that was in that process when I moved there. That I went from having 0 features on my songs to that every song on there, probably except for like 2 of them, is just me. And there's a few beats on there that were produced by another person as well. So it was cool. It was like this collaborative process. And when I got in there, I was also struggling a lot where like I'd wake up and I wouldn't know how I was going to eat that day or things like that. Like I was like, all right, I don't have money, but I'd be like, well, if I take LSD, I'm not really worrying about how I'm going to eat today. So like, you know, or things like that. So it was kind of an escape for sure.
Mm.
And I started utilizing it more and being in that headspace while I was creating, and it led to some really cool breakthrough moments and some just definitely helped me get out of my head and my comfort zone and just make something and then step back and be like, oh, I didn't know I could do that. And, you know,
Yeah.
but now I'm at a point where like I have so much love and respect for the psychedelics, whether it's peyote, mushrooms, LSD, and but I've I'm 29 now, and I'm getting to a point where like now I'm starting to think about things. Even with the music, it's becoming a lot more serious over the past year, and where I have to be grounded and be present, and I have to put on my business hat, and it's like I own a business now, I'm a brand and things like that, and so less. I don't want to say recreational, but less recreational use. And when it is, it's for a very specific purpose. And like when I take mushrooms now, it's like I usually fast the day before. I really am keen on my diet leading up to it. The space that I try to create for myself is very important, and there's a lot of intention that goes into it. So it's a lot different, and but I'm getting to a point now where my values are starting to change now. Like when I was 14, I valued different things than I did when I was 24. Now I'm almost 30, and that my values are changing as well. And having the wisdom to let go of that old ego structure that was serving me for a point, and let go and work through the resistance of stepping into that. It's been really beautiful for sure. And I feel like psychedelics will always be with me. I can't unsee what I've seen, and sometimes I feel like it almost not. I've been in those moments where I'm like, damn, I almost wish I wouldn't have done that, because I feel like I like the people I'm around don't see what I'm seeing or things
Mhm.
like that. But I know that that's what I bring to it, and that when I do talk about it with people, even people who haven't really delved into psychedelics, it connects and they relate and they understand what I'm saying in ways like that. But I used to be like, yo, if you've never taken LSD or mushrooms, like I almost can't have a conversation with you. Like you, how are we even going to meet in a space to talk? Like, but I was definitely naive in thinking that, because there's so many different ways that people have experienced touching that river. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Outside of that.
Yeah, no, no, I feel that, man. I feel that. It's like I don't even. How do you even exist in this world without fucking tripping your dick off, bro? Like, what
Yeah.
happened to you? Who hurt you?
Yeah.
No, but no, I feel that a lot, man. And you know, like I think it's the same for me as well. Although I will have fun and take like micro doses if I'm just hanging out and just like
Yep.
chilling. But yeah, if it is a full on, if I'm gonna do something like that, it has to be with intention. It has to be, you know, like it's just I'm too old to just be like I'm taking fucking LSD and partying. Although I did do that last year at the Gorge at the Labor Day weekend. It was Dave Matthews Band, and I ended up having not such a great experience with it. And I
Yeah.
haven't drank, and I'm not a drinker. I used to be. I was fucking raging alcoholic, piece of shit alcoholic. But like, you know, that night, like it was just such a it just didn't work with me. Like like it wasn't the right environment, and it was like a huge reminder to me. Is like, yo, you can't just do this like that anymore. Like I felt isolated, and like I just felt like you know, like I just felt so isolated on my own, on an island on my own. And maybe that's at that moment, maybe that's what I needed. But
Yeah.
I ended up going, and it was just sort of too overwhelming. And I was just like, I know what will fix this. A shot of fucking Jameson, let's go. And then things got better, but like still, at what cost, you know? Like, I mean, I was just hungover. It felt like shit. And you know,
Yeah.
I was just out wilding out. You know, I'm almost 40, bro. I don't need. I got a kid. I don't. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, it's not something that that's reasonable for me to be doing right now. I mean, you know, whatever within reason, I think you could do that. But at that moment, it was unreasonable. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, there's this. There was a huge lesson for me that you just can't go, you know, stepping in these grounds without, you know, preparing or at least taking more of a self-examined, you know,
Yeah.
step towards it, because it was just like I couldn't even really enjoy the show, not like
Yeah.
Dave Matthews, no. And so like it was like such a, it was such a bummer, because like I really wanted to enjoy the show, but I just felt like out of place. I just, it wasn't like yay, you know. And like the
Yeah.
night before, I'd taken mushrooms and went to the show and had a beautiful time. So it was just really interesting where LSD and then mushrooms sort of, there is a huge divide in those.
Yeah.
It's like,
I definitely am a lot more um precautionary when approaching LSD.
yeah.
When I was younger, it seemed to be just the most incredible substance I'd ever came across. And then as I got older, I was like, yo, this shit gets intense sometimes, man. Like, oh God. And mushrooms get there too, but there's a lot more. Like I've been I've been in crazy mushroom experiences, and but whenever I seem to surrender to it and like understand this two shot pass, there's always this like motherly compassion, or this like, and LSD has given me that too, but there's just, it's hard to describe for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I
And
do.
yesterday was the day that Albert Hoffman first experienced it. April 16th was the day he first that first LSD trip was had. So
Let's go, Albert Hoffman. Let's go. That's tight. That's perfect. April is such an interesting month. It's the month of my birthday as well. But it, so like, I had this. You know, like when you're telling me is like, instead of eating when you're at the studio, like you're just taking LSD. How did you have money for LSD but not for food?
my priorities were a little fucked up. I was like, I need weed in this. And a lot of the times, like being an artist, people just give you that, especially when they start to associate you with the psychedelics.
Mm.
So between me and other people in the studio, we get bags of mushrooms or L and be like, yo, they're in that we had a box where it was like a free for all, go do what you need to, you know what I mean, kind of thing. So there was usually something there to snack on.
That's awesome, though. I mean, hey, what a way to go.
Yeah.
Hey, I've been there. I've been there in my 20s. I was there. I
Yeah.
was, but I got a little bit rougher substances than that. But
Yeah.
I have you ever? I mean, you do talk about a lot of different. I mean, when you're talking about outside of psychedelics, I do hear you talking about cocaine and stuff like that and your stuff. Have you gone down those paths and sort of went over the edge with those, or is that something that you've kind of kept in check?
I was always uh I don't know. When I was so before I moved to Sedona, from the time I was like 16 to like 19,
Hmm.
it was a very much experimental phase for sure. And I was living with some dudes that were like in their 20s in a shitty ass apartment where they were doing heroin and doing gnarly things and cocaine and just binge drinking. So I was exposed to a lot of it, and they were also some really amazing people. They weren't like, pieces of shit. So it kind of was breaking down my perspective. So like, it's like, well, maybe like it's not as bad as I say, or kind of thing. So it opened me up to dabbling in certain things. And I found that prescription pills like Xanax and things like that, I was not so much into the stimulants.
Hmm. Me
And
neither.
then alcohol was really something as well. But and I stopped drinking when I moved to Sedona, and I stopped doing everything except for psychedelics. I remember it wasn't even like I didn't have a problem with the specific substance. I was just like, would take whatever was in front of me. And like I just want to not be in my body. I want to experience something new. Like it's like a kid spinning around and laying on their back and feeling the world turn, or watching TV upside down. It's like we're just doing that as adults now. And so when I got introduced to LSD, it was like I was 18, and that became like I want to experience that again. I wasn't thinking about anything else, and so it was like this kind of seamless fall off of all the other substances.
Mhm.
Like my curiosity was like, oh, this is what I was looking for, and everything else just kind of fell to the side. And there was a few experiences where, like, I was around people who looked at me, not looked up to me, but looked at me in a way that, like, like they trusted me, and I would, snort a Xanax or do something, and they would be like, "Oh, can I try that?" And I had introduced a few people to certain things that I felt like was really not. That was when I was like, "This isn't right. Like, I'm not trying to. This can go bad quickly." And so it was kind of a wake up call. And then with alcohol, that's the only substance, like, that I've ever almost killed myself on, accidentally. Like it doesn't happen with me on mushrooms or LSD or something like that. And I stopped drinking for like 5 or 6 years. And then when I moved to Phoenix, back to Phoenix to live in that studio, that was another coping mechanism. I didn't even realize till later that when I started drinking again, I thought I was okay with it, but I was definitely dealing with some stuff. And I actually made a trip to Sedona, and I went out, took some LSD out in this cave out there. It's called Shaman's Cave, really beautiful view. And I was going back up the canyon to go collect spring water, and I stopped by my old work because it's right there, the bed and breakfast. And they were like, nobody's staying in your house if you want to stay there tonight, like in your old spot. And I was like, cool. And they're like, just we redid the carpets, all the furniture is moved up against the walls, and this, that, and the other. And I remember getting back that night, and I was dealing with just like, feeling very unresourceful. I just been like kind of, my heart was broken from an experience prior to that. I didn't have like a home. I was showering in a sink. I was like, what am I doing with my life? And so that night I drank a tremendous amount, and then I woke up, and the house was like a little like hazy, and I was like, what the fuck? And I look over, and for some reason, all the way across the room, which is probably like 20 feet, I dragged this sofa, this love seat, this old vintage love seat, and I pushed it up against the wall right where the furnace is, the fire furnace. And so it was catching on fire in the house. And so I was like, so I almost burnt down the cabin. And after that, I was like, all right, no more drinking. Like, and I stopped immediately again right there. That was a wake up call for me for sure.
Wow, dude.
Yeah.
Wow. Not dude, that's like so it's so self-destructive, you know what I mean? Like
Yep.
alcohol just drives that. I feel like in people who are, tend to be self-destructive, or at least running from
Yep.
emotion. It sort of taps into your like darkest entities that live within, you know. I mean, I had to learn so many different lessons through alcohol, and I mean, it took me a really long time. It was really alcohol that was really tough for me to sort of break the chains, because it was I don't know. I thought I loved it, and I thought I had a good time on it, and I thought it was
Yep.
like something that it was like, yeah, I turned into a cooler guy, but really I turned into an asshole who was yelling
Yeah.
obscenities in the streets and getting grabby, and like, it's just like it was not good. And there's just been so many times where I had self-destructive moments with it, and I just kept going. I really respect that you had the fortitude to, or the foresight, I should say, to sort of nip that in the bud
Yeah.
when you did. I mean, especially so young. It took me till I was 30 to fucking realize all that shit. But like, still, at least I realized it. But it was my 20s are just such a haze, and
Yeah.
and they're supposed to be like the best times, your most like you know, you're the most not the best times, because as I find as I'm getting older, I'm enjoying life a little bit more. I'm a little bit more
Mhm.
relaxed. I'm a little bit, you know, maybe that's just age or whatever, but and wisdom, you know, and intelligence or whatever you want to call it. But your 20s is supposed to be like a good time. You're supposed to be exploring, experimenting, doing your thing, but you're also supposed to be like working towards something. And
Yeah.
unfortunately, I was just sort of fucking everything up. And I had a lot of cool experiences that I can't really remember, but like, you know, what was I working towards and what was I
Yeah.
trying to accomplish? And it was not much. And so I really respect it when younger cats can, like, you know, catch themselves because you got to catch it as soon as you can. I mean, and
Yeah.
the problem is, especially in your 20s, you just think you're partying and having fun and living your life, right? And, you know, I'm never going to die. I'm fucking, you know, but it's like, you know, like you noticed in that moment when you were trying, like, whatever that was that alcohol taps into for you was like trying to destroy you,
Yeah.
and you were able to sort of catch that and be like, hey, fuck you, you're not my
Yeah.
ally. We're
Yep.
not friends. Like, we are not
Exactly.
friends.
Yep.
We got to figure this something out. And so I always respect that with people,
Appreciate that.
and yeah, man, mad props for that shit, man. So yeah, that's great, man, to figure that out. Yeah, we were reading, I think I streamed a couple days ago, I don't remember, fuck, but we were sort of looking through your stuff and preparing for today and sort of going through your stuff, and I think I read something on a YouTube video where you taking peyote, and I was like, oh shit, like this is gonna be wild.
Yeah.
Can you kind of like go through that experience? Because I've never taken peyote. I've tried DMT, you
Uh-huh.
know, mushrooms, LSD and stuff, but like peyote is one of those things where it's just like that's like a mystical, magical thing that sort of exists only in the desert. You know what I mean? And I've never been in the desert for too long. First of all, I don't like the desert. It's not my shit. Like, I just don't like it. But I like very temperate weather. Like, San Diego was a perfect city for me because it's like perfect weather all the time. That I just need to
Yep.
be comfortable always. That's
Yeah.
me. I don't want to be too cold. I don't want to be too fucking hot. I just want to be
Uh-huh.
comfortable all the time. And obviously that's not that's a trap in its own sense. But could you kind of talk through that experience with us?
Yeah. I was invited by a group of friends who are all they're probably, you know, 5, 10 years older than me, and they were all females. And they were these just very strong women, very grounded women, like people that I would look at as sisters. And it was very healing for me to be around them because I had just been around like a very toxic relationship. And so to be reintroduced to like a place where there was in this like non-sexual way of just like having a really great group of women who really had your best interest. And it was the same for them. You know, they were like, we trust you enough to be here with us, you know. And so I was very fortunate enough to do that. And one of the women, um, her partner has been a part of, and I'm forgetting the name right now of the specific tribe, but he's been a part of these peyote ceremonies since he was a child.
Whoa.
And his brother is the one who holds the ceremony, and it was with the Native American Church. So it's this completely legal like space that's dedicated to them. And we actually went out to California, probably like an hour or so west of like the Salton Sea.
Mm,
I can't remember exactly where it was, but it's still very deserty, like in the
yeah.
middle of the desert kind of thing.
Mm,
And so we went out there. The day before was spent uh, doing, you know, different breath work and different yoga and different. We were taking. They were doing hape, which I'm not sure if you're familiar with that. It's like a snorted tobacco.
mm,
Um, and so doing hape ceremonies and just kind of like bonding in that level and preparing ourselves for what we're about to go do. Because I think outside of the couple who had been involved in it, the one woman and her partner, we were all like, all right, let's see what's gonna happen. And they had done an ayahuasca ceremony last year.
oh, dope.
So they're very like very intentional and very they're warriors for sure.
Yeah.
And so we went out there and we get to this place in the middle of the desert, and it's this probably like fire pit that's like 10 foot in diameter. There's this beautiful altar where you had to bring like a candle and bring something. And as the sun's setting, everybody starts showing up. And there's probably about 80 people all surrounding this huge fire pit. And 80 people ranging from like kids, like 3 to 5-year-old, to like elders, like people like in their 80s and 90s. And you're sitting next to people from like just kind of like every possible upbringing, like whether it's just like people they're seeking to expand on their own personal journey, or people who are there because they've overcome substance and they were out of jail now and they're doing this, and it's a part of their commitment to themselves to show up here and do these things. And so we end up in this circle of about 80 people, and it's led by I suppose the chief is what you could call it, and 2 of his kind of like partners in that sense. And they're like, all right, if you've never taken peyote before, come up and stand in front of the fire. And so I walk up, and like there's all these rules to it. Like once you're in the circle, you can't leave. You're locked into it. There's certain ways you have to walk through it and different things like that. And like this is something that they're doing all the time, right? They do it every equinox. They do it every as at the transition of every season.
Wow.
And they're not there to like walk you through it. It's like you decided to come, sit down and listen and watch and learn. Like they're not going to be like, all right, so explain it to you. It's like you have to be aware, and they're going to keep going with their routine. And if you want to be here, that's what you're going to have to do, is have that be humble enough to set aside like that part of yourself. And so I walk up, and the chief comes up, and he has put my hands out, and he takes his peyote bud, probably like the size of a golf ball, and he presses it to my wrist, and then presses it to my forehead, and then puts it in my mouth. And I was like, okay, it doesn't taste that bad. Like it was good. It wasn't very palatable. And I go sit back down at my chair afterwards. And my buddy, who is the brother of the chief, comes up to me, and he's like, hands me like 2 or 3 more peyote buds. He's like, here, take some more. And they told us to bring oranges because like it would to help the peyote go down. And I was eating the peyote, and I was like, you don't need an orange for this. Like this is perfectly fine. I'm just eating it. It was not nearly as bad as mushrooms or something like that. It was like kind of like a really bland like cucumber, apple, like I don't even know like how to like the texture of it. Like very like a gummy almost. It was so strange.
I've had like a San Pedro cactus a little bit, and that was like a fresh one. And I was dumb. I didn't know how to do it, but like that I had that like I feel that like that cucumbery taste. And I know it's different, but yeah, I get what you're saying.
Yeah. And then so then they there's other parts of the ceremony. At one part, like they bring some of the men up, and I was one of them, and they give you this like so the peyote is associated with the deer and the spirit of the deer heavily. And so the idea is that everywhere the deer steps, the peyote grows, kind of thing. And it's like that's the spirit of the deer. And so in the process, what they do is they kill a deer before, the day before or something, and they bring that there, and the whole time there's this stew cooking on the fire with the deer in it. And they walk up, and they hand me this huge bone that's sharpened, and they're like, there's a deer heart laying in front of the fire, and they're like, stab the deer heart and flick the blood into the fire, like with your intentions, with this, that, and the other. And I remember, and like I've grown up hunting my entire life, like big game animals and stuff. Like me personally, the heart of the deer was my favorite part to eat. Like it's delicious. It's incredibly like it's so good. And so it wasn't like anything that was like, oh my God.
Right.
It was like, but it was a beautiful process, and this how they were going about it. And then I go sit back down, and I see them, some of the people who are working with the ceremony are walking around passing things out again. I'm thinking they're passing out more peyote, and they walk up, and they have like a mason jar filled with this powder. And so what it was the peyote dried and powdered. So it was like dirt. it was like this just dirt. And they're like, I see everyone putting their hands out, and they just put this huge scoop of what is just essentially dirt, like texture wise, in your hand. And I'm like, oh, this is what the orange is for. So I'm like, oh, I just like put it in my mouth and throw the orange in there, and it's just like, okay, holy shit, like putting that down. And then after that, they're like, if anybody has their own cups, we're gonna pass around some tea right now, and then whoever has cups, we'll pass it out to you first. So I'm like, oh, that's very nice. Like they just gave us this gnarly, powdered shit. They're gonna give us some tea to wash it down. And I get the tea and I take a sip out of it. I'm like, oh, this is peyote. I was like, this peyote tea. I was like, okay. I was like, fuck. Like I was like, I thought we were done. All right, more. And the thing about the peyote, which was unlike any of the psychedelics that I experienced before, was the purge of it. They called it getting well. And so the whole time there's just retching going on. People, and it goes right into it makes you almost feel like you have, I mean, me personally, it puts you in the space where it's almost like you have a flu instantly. Like it's very intense. Like in this, like not like mushroom, like mushrooms are like, oh, my stomach, like, no, this goes right to it. And they believe that it's like purging you out. It's good. So like they call it getting well. So anytime somebody gets well, they would just be like, I got well. And then there was two volunteers who would come around with a shovel and scoop the vomit and take it outside of the circle and put it outside of it. But the whole time people are just retching and vomiting and things like that. And I mean, even the children are consuming small amounts of peyote. So they're good, the kids, everything like that. And so so then for the next, and it's from sundown to sun up. And we went till 11 a.m., like past when the sun was up. So it was 16 hours, I think it was like 15 or 16 hours of being locked in this circle. At one point, I remember I was like, I got to go to the bathroom. And there was like breaks where like, it was like, okay, one or two people can leave at a time to use the restroom, but that's it. And so I was like, kind of my turn to leave the circle. And I walk out to the middle of the desert to go take a piss. And I look up, and from each star in the sky, there was these threads of light coming into the ground. And it was the first time I'd stepped away from the fire. And the whole time, this entire 13-15 hour process, they are dancing, singing. They have boots covered with shells, and they're jumping around. And like, there's these beautiful, just like, I'm spacing the word, but, yeah, those ceremonial aspects of it. And it was that itself, like even when I got out of the peyote ceremony, I was like, dude, I could have done that whole thing and not taken peyote, and I feel like it would have been just as transformational. It was just such a beautiful thing. And at one point in like probably like midnight, we go and they have everybody do this thing called the deer dance. And it's funny because everybody's just spent all this time purging and vomiting and stuff. And then it's almost like, you know how good you feel after you throw up. And so there's just this new energy, and everybody's running around the fire like little kids, like in this very liberated sense and stuff. And they're and dancing around the food that we're about to eat. And then they give us the stew. We eat a little bit of the venison, and then they give us at probably around 3 or 4 in the morning. And mind you, the entire time, it's probably like below 30 degrees, and the wind is just just blowing, and you're trapped in this circle. Like, and so I was sitting there with I had prepared, but I had a sleeping bag too, and I just had myself wrapped in that sleeping bag with just like my eyes visible. And I was just like sitting there like, oh man, like what the hell? It's so cold. But I'm used to the cold, but I knew the people I was with. And when we got there, they separated the circle in men and women. So I was completely by myself on that side, you know what I mean? And I was looking over at them, and I was like, at one point when I went to the bathroom, I was like, yo, if you guys need, I have like 5 sleeping bags in my truck, go get them out. And they're like, thank you so much. So they went, and they were like, but I don't think they were anticipating it to be that cold. But so yeah, the deer dance, the venison, then they give us the hot chocolate, which was just like, oh, it was the best hot chocolate you'd ever have in your entire life, because you're freezing cold and you've just been eating crazy things, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And the whole time I'm just the tobacco is heavily associated with the peyote as well too. So the whole time I'm just smoking cigarettes, like rolling cigarettes and smoking cigarettes. So then to get this fresh cup of hot chocolate with some honey in it, it was amazing. And then as the sun rises, it kind of starts to settle down, and it almost turns into like a storytelling really like kind of vibe, and everybody's really attentive and just listening to the people who are working the ceremony tell these beautiful stories and these anecdotes. And then at the end, everyone, it was asked to say 4 words about their experience, and they went around the circle. And when they got to me, at the point I was at, I was really kind of like thinking on the concept of like, how do I know all this stuff, but I can't apply it? You know what I mean? Like, I know that I know this, I know that I know this, but like, I can't apply it. And it was this understanding, and the words I chose was transforming knowledge into wisdom, where through the experience, the knowledge becomes wisdom. It's different than knowing. It's like it's like a deep down knowing, you know what I mean? And so, so we go through that, and then how we exit the circle as the ceremony ends is kind of like, one person comes out and goes to the person next to them, and they have a moment to give each other a hug and talk, and then it goes. And so it kind of snakes back out, and everybody has a moment with this person in front of you. And it was one of those moments where you're around all these strangers, and every single person is like, thank you, brother, thank you, sister, like really seeing you as this cosmic tribe of people. And knowing that there was people out there who could meet you in that space was one of those things that forever changed me, because I knew it was possible. Even if people didn't always meet me there, I knew that there were people who understood that there was this, that we're all brothers and sisters here. And one of my favorite quotes of Ram Dass is, we're all just walking each other home. And it's such a sincere, kind of sweet, idea that like, we're all just walking each other back home to the other side of this, or wherever we came from in that thing. So, so like I said, even with all of that, the peyote, it was just as much the ceremony and the intention and everything that went into it that was really a moment that I will not forget. I was like, I got invited again back to go again, and I was like, I was just busy, but I would like to do it again in a smaller ceremony, in an intimate one, whether it's one-on-one with a shaman or something like that. But because in my mind, they're not going to take 80 people extremely deep into a peyote ceremony. That's room for chaos to brew right there. And so I felt like they took us all very consciously to a certain space, but didn't overdo it. And I felt like I wanted to experience more of it. And so my resistance to go back was like also that I was like, I feel like I kind of like know what to expect, and I would like to, I'm down to do it again, but like if it was up to me, I would do it a little differently. And not in a disrespectful way, but just so that was a really unique experience, and I know not everybody gets to do that, and it's crazy. Even just reflecting on it with you, I can really feel like being there again.
Wow. That's fucking incredible, man. That is such a wild ass. I mean, like, I can't even imagine. I mean, I can't even imagine that. I mean, like, I've been in those situations where like you're tripping with other people, you take mushrooms or acid with like a group of people, and by the end of it, you guys feel like you've been through something together, and
Yep.
you're bonded, and like Moving Dutchman was saying earlier, like buddies for life, and it's just like this. You always have this cosmic connection with that person, and it's a beautiful thing. But like 80 people and fucking vomiting and shit. Excuse me. Sorry about that. I just choked on my own spit.
It happens.
It happens way too often for me. No, that's such a wild experience. And like when you hear about people who do the ayahuasca, who go down to South America, there's kind of a similar thing. Have you done DMT before? And
Yeah.
is it similar to that? I mean, because like DMT for me is different than like mushrooms, because I feel like, oh, sorry, Reina, I'll cough into my arm next time and not all over the microphone and stuff. We share this space, so she's just like, gross, bro. But like, like with DMT, it's sort of like you are here as you're here as Kaleidoscope Kid, and then fucking you take the DMT, and then you're just dissolved, and you're in another dimension, and it's just like ancient geometric shapes, you know, it's just whatever it is. And then you sort of like come back and you're just like, what the fuck? Is it similar to that, or what would you say it's similar to?
As far as like, are you talking about ayahuasca or
Oh, I'm sorry. When you're talking about the peyote.
the peyote? The peyote, I felt like it was a really interesting blend of mushrooms and alcohol almost.
Wow.
In a way that wasn't like alcohol, but in a way that was very similar to like, I remember getting up to walk and like it felt very much like a little like wobbly, like, and I, you know, you get that effect with LSD or mushrooms and things like
Mhm.
that, but it felt, it almost was like the warmth and the coziness of alcohol to it. It
Mm.
had like that kind of inebriating effect to it, but very much psychedelic as well, as far as like mushrooms and that sense of being connected to the earth and something like that. Just tasting it, just I will never forget the smell of it and the taste of it. Like even for like 2 or 3 days after that, it still felt like it was like working through my body. Like I could feel it still, and it was like I could taste it. And the whole time they're walking around, these women are walking around with these chalices filled with frankincense and myrrh and palo santo and cedar, and just burning all these sacraments. And so like these smells lingering around you and everything like that. So it was unlike, it was very unique in their own ways, but
Mm.
almost I feel like how LSD and mushrooms kind of can get indistinguishable at times. Like it's
Mm.
like, okay, they're pretty similar,
Yeah.
but there's their differences. Peyote, I would give its own thing.
Yeah.
Like it's like, yeah, I could see that, but like no, like it's definitely its own thing. I would say, if anything, I've never done it before, but from what they said, similar to ayahuasca
It's ayahuasca.
with the purging and with
Yes.
kind of different things like that for sure.
Right, right. And with ayahuasca, tobacco is involved
Yeah,
as well and stuff like that. And so, yeah, I could see that. But I always just imagine, because they say that ayahuasca is sort of that's DMT, a form of DMT. And so like when I think of DMT, it's like my experience with it, you know, is just
yeah,
you just shot into another fucking dimension. Do you
yeah.
do you think that, you know, these powerful hallucinogens like DMT, or I can't say, I mean, mushrooms are super powerful. LSD are like, these are very powerful fucking
But
substances.
DMT and 5-MeO DMT, whether it's from the Bufo alvarius frog or toad, or from the synthesized version, they're
Mhm.
definitely a class of their own for sure.
Who? Yeah, exactly. Do you think like, I mean, specifically, I guess, so sort of like DMT. Do you think that these are just chemical reactions that are sort of taking place in our brain? Like, what is it? What do you think is happening? Or do you feel like we are sort of being transported into another dimension and able to see, you know, beyond the veil?
Yeah,
What is your interpretation of it?
yeah. I feel like I always loved Alan Watts saying like the idea that the world is made up of, like the universe is made up of nothing. Like there's nothing out there, but that it's misinterpreted, because realistically what that means is it's no thing, it's everything.
Hmm.
And so that everything in its essence is one. Like it's all more one than even our word and our idea of one. We can understand our idea of unity. And so I think it brings you back to the rawest state, almost um, it's like the Godhead, I suppose, is the best analogy for it. Of like that is that is what is happening in all of us, and that's what, like, it's incredible, like, and as far as like just trying to even bring it into words, you know what I
Right.
mean, it's like you have to dance with it. And one of the analogy it makes me think of is that like, fire doesn't burn itself, like light doesn't illuminate itself. And if we are that God or the universe, how could we know ourselves? You know what I mean? Because we are it. And so that's the trap in almost like, the idea that if the universe was everything, um, I'm not sure if you've ever heard the analogy that Alan Watts gives about the dream analogy. And what he says is, if you could in one night dream 100 years of living, every night, and you were in complete control of your dreams, that can be looked at as like an analogy for being God. You're completely in control of this kind of thing. You could do whatever you want, anything. You would explore that as much as you can until eventually you would get to a point where you're like, oh, man, I feel like I've done everything. Like, let's try to have a dream where I let go of control and I don't know what's going to happen. And so then you have that dream where you let go of a little bit of control and you come back and you're like, whoa, that was crazy. Okay. Until eventually you would dream the dream of the life that you're living now. And so the idea that like, I don't want to say like, it feels weird to give it some sort of human qualities, but the idea of like a lonely God, like if you're everything and nothing at the same time, there's no way to experience it. Like you're the fire that can't burn itself and things. So being born is like that separation in order to experience the self in that, this, you're from the cosmic womb born into this. And then even in it, the rest of your life, I feel like we want to feel, as we move through life, we feel this need for connection. And I remember I dealt with I feel like as most people, especially in with the rat race mentality that we live in and things, have faced suicidal thoughts and things of that nature. And I remember being just really, really low. And I was reading the Tibetan Book of the Dead, and I had read it a few times, but I was reading it and was just really applying a lot of the stuff. And I was like, I wanted to kill myself. And I understood that I didn't feel connected to anything at all. And what would be the ultimate connection is going back to like being that one. And so in that moment, I kind of understood that like, yeah, that would work, but also I can have my needs met another way. If that's what I need is connection, whether that's through friends, through finding this way to connect with nature and this thing, this, that, and the other. So I feel like a lot of our longing and our desire to do a lot of things we do is almost to feel that again. And it comes out in all these other ways that are disguised as like the human experience, whether it's marriage, like marriage is another union in that sense, where it's like, that's getting closer to where we came from, which is when we were everything again. And so, and that's the analogy of like walking each other home. We're all just walking each other home. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it's hard to describe, but I feel like DMT and a lot of the psychedelics, like even with mushrooms, molecularly, I think it's only there's one variation that separates it from DMT. It's very close to DMT as well. And there's been plenty of times where I would fast for a day or two before taking a large dose of mushrooms. And then when I would take them, I would meditate and I would create this environment for myself where after I would meditate and I'd be laying there for 2 or 3 hours in a complete still state, that I would leave my body to a degree that was very similar to DMT, but a little bit more integratable for me. And like I could slow it down a little bit kind of thing. And so, so there's this familiarity that crosses over between all of them where you're like, okay, like I've been here in this realm. I've been here in this realm. I've seen this before. But with DMT, it just so happens to be like a bus pass that takes you right there, as opposed to like mushrooms, you might have a few stops on the way or something.
Yeah, they fucking rocket ship, bro.
Exactly.
Man, I want to talk about the new album that's coming out. It's a self-titled, and I'm going to drop the link. And if you guys are listening on the audio side, make sure you check out the links that are in the show notes. But here in chat, you guys can click on the link to a pre-save right to the self-titled album, the Kaleidoscope Kid, and also his website. Go ahead and click on that. It'll take you to links to his web or to his socials, and then of course go and pre-save on whatever streaming platform you listen to your music on, and go support this guy. I mean, you just heard him talking. We're almost on 2 hours of it talking, and go support. This is, I love that you incorporate all of this into what you do. Listening to your catalog of music, and I have to say, man, I really, really enjoyed it. And there's like no skippers. I really feel like there's no skippers. And maybe you had some skippers on there before because you said you took some music down. But But I really feel like what you got out there is really what the best of what you're doing at that moment. Do you feel like from the stuff that you put out before, and I know Watermelon Kisses is the single off that, that's the lead single off that?
Yeah, that's kind of what radio's been, putting up and really pushing right now.
Like what do you find that there was a growth between what you have done and what you've done with this album coming out, with all the stuff that you've previously released?
It's actually interesting because when this album kind of got put together, um, all these songs I wrote 5, 6 years ago. These are
Hmm.
some of the first songs I ever wrote.
Oh wow.
And so like Watermelon Kisses, Hold Up, the Kaleidoscope Kid, like that was within the first year of me making music
Yeah.
and producing and doing these things. So the
That was the
songs had
first
been sitting,
year?
yeah. And
Jesus
the
Christ, dude, that's fucking badass.
Thank you. And so the songs were kind of just sitting there. And, this is 5 years later, I'd done a lot of work, a lot of new music, a lot of growth. And Suburban Noise and Regime, the record label hit me up. They were interested in doing a project or two together. And they were like, yo, like, we really love these songs that you have out. They are doing, they're doing good numbers. People like them and stuff, but obviously like there is a lot more potential for them to be seen. So even though they're old songs to you, they're new to a lot of people.
Yeah.
And would you be willing to take them down and let's give them a new face and we redid the music videos for them, like brought them back to life in a way. Like even in the Hold Up music video, Hold Up, originally I had shot the music video 5 years ago. And in the new music video, the way it starts is I put in a VHS tape and it says Hold Up on there. And
Hmm.
it calls back to a scene from the original video. And so people who had seen it before would know. And then all of a sudden I come in with a bat and I smash the TV screen. And so even like the way the album came about, that was inspiring. It's like, okay, I got to go back now and find all my old selves that I've just been let running wild and kind of corral them in and kill them almost,
Yeah.
so that way I can step into this new identity. And so all the songs on the album, there's 9 songs. 5 of them were wrote 5, 6 years ago,
Okay.
and then the other 4 we wanted to. I didn't want to just drop an album for people who've been listening of all old stuff, and it's like let's put some new tracks on there. And so I had a handful of songs as well that were made a year ago now, like 8 months ago now. And so me listening to the album, it's like it's a little it feels like it's not super cohesive because it's like, okay, cool, like I like this stuff, and me personally, they're old songs for me, so I'm not super attached to them. I'm
Right.
like, oh, that sounds terrible, or oh, I could do this better in this, and then the new songs come on and it's like, wait, what is this, the same album almost? So I hope it's cohesive to people in that sense. But it kind of gave me like it almost feels more like a mixtape as
Hmm.
much as it is an album, just because of how it came together. But the idea was, like let's give this a new face and put these new songs on there. And I remember the analogy somebody used was, when the new Star Wars movie comes out, what's on television for the months before that? All the old ones.
Right.
And so let's put these ones out, let's pump them out. And then while that's happening, we'll work on a new album and get ready for that new album to drop. And so we brought these old songs back to life, put new music videos to them, and then uh, uh, threw those other songs on there. And those, I'm very proud of all the music. I definitely am. I know that there's a lot that's gone into it. Obviously, I feel more connected to the stuff that's newer,
Hmm.
and it's more in the direction of other stuff that I've been working on. Like I have a lot of music that I've just been waiting for the right people and things to put out. So I'm excited for what's about to happen because it's been a lot of hard work and planting seeds, and it feels like a lot of those are about to start bearing fruit and about to, like reaping the benefits of that.
That that's dope, man. So like, so this is sort of a purge of some older stuff, and you're sort of getting ready for the next journey.
Yep.
Like I was looking fucking Suburban Noise, man. Like they're fucking dope, man. They have like a lot of cool artists on there. Long Beach All Stars, Mickey Avalon, Head PE. I was like, oh shit, my boy, AK will sit in with Head PE sometimes on keys. So like, and then Cottonmouth Kings. I know, Danny X of Cottonmouth King. I know I don't think he's a part of the label anymore because there was sort of falling out. But these artists, and those are some of just the names that I knew of,
Yep.
So, and there's way more artists than that. And I suggest everyone go and check out Sub Noise and fucking and dig through because there's some cool artists on there. And there was this rapper, what was his name? Oh my god, something 619. I can't remember what it was, but like I was really digging his shit. I was listening to some of the people in there. So the label reached out to you to do some work with you. Are you doing production with them too for other artists, or are you just working on you?
I'm trying to just focus on myself, but with that, like I still have an incredible amount of independence in what I'm doing with my music.
Cool.
So outside of the label stuff, I feel like there's always things like going on as well. So like even being there, like I just love making music. Last week there was an artist there who came in and worked with another person who works in the office. Was like, hey, I would love for you guys to meet and just hang out in the studio. And we worked on some production together, and she was awesome. The other day there was another artist who came in and they were like, hey, we're going to record some acoustic sessions, can you help us engineer her? And got to meet her. So like I'm really about just I'm like when I'm in that process of creating, I don't really feel like I come from a place where it's like, oh, I got to get something out of this. Like I just love doing it, you know what I mean? And it's I feel like it's like I feel like there's an unlimited amount of potential to create. So it's not like it's like, oh yeah, this is cool, but like I'm always going to be able to make new shit and work on other stuff and all that. So I don't feel unresourceful or like that I have to like kind of like close myself off or things like that. So when it comes to the creative process, anyway, I feel like I can be involved. That's what I love to do. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Have you ever had any, quote unquote, writer's block, or are you just sort of like a fucking well, and you're just like, let's go. I'm just gonna shit this out too. Let's go.
Yeah.
Like how?
No, I feel like I've had moments where I almost wouldn't call it writer's block because I would get out an album and then I would feel like I had nothing to write about, but I wouldn't force myself to write. I knew that I needed to experience life. So like it would come in this wave and then I would be like, I would let my give myself the freedom to not feel forced to make it and just go do other things that I love and things like that. And play the guitar and work and play songs that I've already written and perform and do things like that. And then when the timing comes again, it's like you can't make the flower grow kind of thing. So
Yeah.
I never really wanted to force the flower to grow. I wanted to just create the environment for it to happen. But right now I think with the new album was the most resistance I had faced. The one that we're not the one that's coming out, but the one that we're working on currently.
Oh, wow.
It was different. I feel like I'd always made music just from a place of wanting to make music, and now it's really transitioned into more like, okay, it's getting serious, the business side of things and all this, and like you have to be held accountable. And before I didn't feel like I had to show up or oh yeah, I got this going on, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so it I don't want to say it put pressure on me, but it changed my perspective. It also and at the same time paralleling that, my values are changing in my life, like I said. So it's like I don't feel like getting in the studio and just doing a bunch of drugs or doing this. So it's like now I'm in the studio sober, being like, all right, how do you do this? And so there's a resistance in that naturally, because normally I would go to those places. So I think that's been the thing and I'm really grateful. I feel like it's an opportunity rather than a negative thing for me to understand how to work with what I'm doing right now. But it's been like, all right, let's try this.
Yeah, yeah, no, for sure. Do you feel like the work that you're doing with Sub Noise is is sort of adding to that pressure, or is it? I mean, is that a part of what you're doing now? Is Sub Noise a part of the next record? And
Yeah.
so and are they the ones sort of holding you accountable? And I'm not trying to say it in a bad way at
No,
all.
no, yeah. I mean, that's a part of it. Like
Hmm.
me committing to saying I'm going to do this thing,
Right.
and then like being like, I want to just fall into my old habits of being like, all right, let me just go smoke a bunch of weed, do this, go create. But also, I'm like, I'm at a point in my life where like I don't want that to be who I am. Like I don't
Right.
know how I can be a father in a few years or do this, when the time comes if I still carry all those things with me into it. So I think like having the dynamic of having somebody telling you like or not telling you, but they're saying, hey, do you agree to this? And I said yes, and now I have to show up and agree to that.
Right.
It definitely changes the place that the music comes from inside a little bit, and
Right.
not a negative way. It's
Right.
just a different way. And so it's been like I said, it's a really good opportunity for me to grow and to uh, I feel like I have so much music that I'm sitting on. Like I have albums of stuff that are in different genres and realms and music videos and all this stuff that we're just waiting to release. So I feel like um I have to not almost focus so much on the creative side as I was like, okay, how do I show up, like I said, as a business person? How do I build this team out? How do I get this going? And how do we, get on these tours and do all this stuff? So I've had to take the pressure off because I know that the album I'm working on isn't due any point in time. Like
Mhm.
it's like, okay, it's gonna come out when it comes out. But me being me, I'm like, all right, like let's make this stuff, let's do this. And I think right now my main focus as an artist, as much as the album is there, and there's a really solid foundation for the project or the next project coming out, that I know that I need to be focused on live performances.
Mhm.
I feel like very great and comfortable in the studio, and I know that the live performances there's a lot of room for me to continue to expand on it. And I have ideas and visions for how it's going to be in the future, whether it's like bringing a drummer on tour with us or having this and doing this, because it's I think and the more that I allow myself to focus on that, that the music is going to write itself.
Yeah. Yeah. What is your experience with the road? Like, do you play it a lot? Do you have a lot of experience on stage?
Yeah, I have definitely like a good amount of shows under my belt. I feel my most comfortable on stage.
Hmm.
Like it really is like every time like I don't even know what's related to. I mean, like, it's like somebody who loves surfing or something. You just go out into the chaos and you're so present. And it's almost like I get on stage and sometimes like when I'm in my room or in a studio, like I can't even actually get to that level energetically where I'm just like, yeah, just going off.
Yeah.
But then when you have all the people around you and everything, it's like an out of body experience. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? And every time, like I feel like I've shed something beautiful, and I feel like that's almost for me. It's important to hold that reflection for the crowd. It's like I have to go on stage and be completely free. And so that way they can look in that reflection and they can be completely free. Because if I'm up there and I'm not doing that, so it's like, and I'm so stoked to be able to go do that in a place where people actually can benefit from it rather than just running around in my room or screaming and things like that. But I've been doing a lot of it by myself or with my DJ. And so like he'll, be in the back just playing the tracks and doing some cuts here and there and drops. And then it's me on vocals with a lead guitar. So we'll have the back tracks in the back, the performance tracks. I'll do my verses and in between singing, just shred on the electric. But
Yeah.
but I would like to. There's always more room for me to expand. I feel like like getting my pedal board set up for my guitar. Like I said, getting a drummer on stage, which really brings a whole different dynamic energetically to everything. So it's exciting for me too to have something that I'm like, oh, this is my curiosity. Here it is again. Like
Yeah.
I see it again.
Yeah, yeah, but do you envision like even a full band experience, or do you want to kind of keep it small and tight knit?
The where I'm at with it now is like I like the idea of having a DJ uh, on the back doing the backing tracks with a drummer and me doing lead guitar. If I were to do a band, I would like to do it like your traditional like um, 3-piece or 4-piece band. You know what I mean? Like Red Hot Chili Peppers or Blink-182 or things like that. Like those are bands that that I definitely grew up listening to, and to be able to do something like that would be amazing. Like it's just a matter of like, all right, do we have the resources to pay everyone to do
Right.
this, do that? So I know that that's going to come in the future, but it's nothing that like I feel like super inclined to get into yet. I'm like, I don't even want to like it's like I don't even want to bring a drummer on as a bandmate. I just want to hire a drummer who knows, you know what I mean? Because I'm
Yeah.
like, once we start getting into a band, it starts getting crazy, and I'm very
Mhm.
much work good by myself.
Yeah.
So that's something that like I'll probably I could imagine changing in the future, but it's something that like almost gives me a little bit of anxiety too. So it's a fear-based response, being like, I don't know if I want to do that. It's like I know
Right.
I could, but do I want to take on the
Right.
responsibility that comes with that?
Right, and give up that sort of control and
Exactly.
that vibe, and because like you're saying, man, like it's your vibe, like from top to bottom, you're in the studio, you're making the beats and something, you're doing some of the editing for videos, you're the imagery and all the shit. I can see, yeah, I absolutely prefer to work by myself when I'm working on my own stuff as well. Like I don't like that. And even because me and my wife will do stuff, it's like she definitely will hire a band, and it's like this is how it is, you know what I mean? And then yeah, you can have input, and you can like,
Yeah,
oh, I could add this little fill here, and it'll expand on it. But we are expanding on my ideas, and it's like
exactly.
not your ideas, sir.
Eh,
And that's something we learned early on as well, is where it's like, as opposed to just getting a band and let's start a band and be all creative and shit. It's like, no, let's just pay people to play the music that's here, and because it's a little bit less, there's just because it gets icky, it gets a little sticky in those moments. Because I've been in plenty of bands where we're sitting there arguing. It's like, no, we're going to D
exactly.
minor, bitch. We're going to
Exactly.
fuck you. It's D minor,
Yeah.
not G,
Exactly.
bitch.
Yeah.
It's
Exactly.
just these really ridiculous arguments that you have about, because music and art, we're passionate about our shit, right? Like we care, we're sensitive about our shit. And so fucking when we feel like it's getting stepped on, it's like defense mechanisms come up, and
Totally.
shit gets real
Yep.
dirty real fast. um is there what are some of the benefits of being sort of on a label like Sub Noise? What are the benefits that you've seen? Because I talk to a lot of people who are on labels and stuff, and sometimes I feel like they're on labels that don't really provide much, other than just maybe like funding, maybe, or like, because like I feel like a lot of the deals that sort of go on these days is like so much rests upon the artist, from marketing to all of this stuff. Whereas, traditionally back in the day, you would look at a label as like, oh, I'm signed to this label. Now, I have like, fucking, I have access to everything now. And I realize that the music business has changed a lot, especially with the dawning of Napster and streaming. And, there's more opportunity for independent artists now to sort of get the attention of people, get into people's ears, because we have more control over our own stuff. But
Yeah.
that's also, everything is on us. So is there was there any, what noticeable benefits have you seen being sort of signed on to Sub Noise? And if there's things you can't talk about, obviously, that's fine, but I would like to hear your opinion.
No, I don't know if he's gonna care if I say his name, but Kevin Zinger, the guy who owns it. I mean, the guy loves what he does. He's extreme. He really, uh, I mean, the guy. I'm like this. If anything's gonna kill him, it's the music business, because in a good way, because he like, I'm like, dude, you need to sleep. You know what I mean? And he's like, no, we got to get this done by any means necessary. Let's do this. And so when he's passionate about something, he really like gives it his all, and he's gone above and beyond to do what he can to get the music in people's ears. He's been, and the team that he's built around him, they've all been just such a tremendous help. Like I don't even like, if it was up to me, I wouldn't even have social media accounts. You know what I mean? Like I don't even, if you go to my social media, like half the time, like it's not even me posting stuff. It's them helping me out, taking control of that. Like I always look at it like a ship where it's like, okay, we're all on the ship together and everybody
Mm,
has to do their part. And my part is to create the music.
yeah.
And so like, that is what's most important to me. And so, I think like being around them, and also like Subnoise, like, they're it's SRH, the clothing company
Mm,
is the same. They're all tied in together, and that's stoners wreaking havoc. Supporting radical habits, skateboarding, dirt biking, surfing, and that's how I grew up. Is just like, we were gnarly ass kids, and so Kevin grew up in that, and I don't think that a lot of labels, I would be able to like have the communication that I do with him, and be able to like really relate in that aspect. Like, uh, so he's kind of like an edgier like dude. You know what I mean? He's not there to impress you or do this. He's totally himself. And so it's been really awesome working with them. And even when I started working with them, like I didn't really listen to any of Subnoise growing up, but I know that they own and work heavily with Skunk Records, which is Sublime, the label that Sublime was tied to. And I probably wouldn't have ever started singing, or if it weren't for Bradley Knoll,
mm,
because like I would sing along to him or something. And my buddies would be like, "Oh, you sound pretty good. Like that sounds dope." And I'm like, "All right, cool." And I remember when I was like 16 or something, my buddy had a vocal booth in his house, and we were like drunk one night, and I did a cover of I can't even remember what Sublime song it was, Ruka or something,
mm,
one of those slower ass like weird ones, and so that was like knowing how much like Long Beach Dub All Stars, like Opie is the lead dude. He drew the
right.
Sublime Son. He like being around those guys. Um, when the opportunity presented itself, it seemed so in alignment that I would have been crazy to not follow that. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
so it's been super dope working with them, and just having them to kind of give me some uh, give me some game as far as like what they've experienced as well too. And like I said, Kevin is extremely hardworking person, just really good dude.
That's awesome. So they've sort of been able to take up some of the business side that you just aren't really interested in doing.
Yeah, they've been we've really been the thing that I feel like if I had to highlight one aspect is they really understand the radio side of things.
Mm,
They when Subnoise was back in the day, before they kind of went on pause for about a decade with after the Cottonmouth King stuff,
mm,
they kind of expanded in other areas. They accomplished what they accomplished prior to the streaming age, and
mm.
so they understand the touring, they understand the CD sale, the physical copies, they understand the radio stuff. So it's interesting. I feel very grateful because I feel like we've almost gone backwards, because we're getting so much radio attention right now. And I feel like it normally doesn't start like that.
Right.
And then I'm like, okay, now I need to make I need to build up my social media so it doesn't look like I'm not doing anything. And it's normally you'd start with the social media and then
Right.
work on this and do that. And it's like, all right, we're at the top. Now we gotta like go back and make sure everything's doing this. So I think that's one thing that's been really really amazing to just be able to like have people that I haven't talked to in years call me and be like, "Yo, I just heard you on the radio, dude," or my mom be like, "Oh yeah, I heard you on the radio." It's like, oh, okay,
That's rad.
that hits different for sure.
Yeah. Man, that's really cool. That's really cool. I just hear so many times, just so many like not nightmare stories because there are some good labels out there, especially the people I've talked to, they've been, really grateful for what they've done, but it's really cool that they've given you sort of that freedom just to focus on creating and not have to be, bogged down by all the other shit and
And even when I think the thing that's dope is because even if because it's not like I want to be resistant to trying those things,
Mhm.
but I can comfortably express my resistance to them.
Yes.
I'd be like, oh, I fucking hate this, and not have to worry about. They're like, no, we get it, dude. Like, you
Right.
know what I mean? Like, so I think that's the thing, like feeling comfortable in my own skin
Mhm.
to vocalize my opinions, and to know that it's like I'm not saying that, shit because I'm ungrateful for things. It's like, this is just my way of venting and moving through it and
Right.
expressing where I stand with it. So that way I can shake it off and be like, all right, let's do it. Like, let's like, how do I do this?
Yeah. No, I was talking to an artist not too long ago, and they're signed to a subsidiary of Sony, and it, they've put a lot of pressure on her to do more social media. So like, and she's a very closed off private person,
Yeah.
and she, and I'm not saying, I'm not trying to put words in her mouth or anything, because she's doing great, but she did sort of express sort of the uncomfortableness of having to sort of put yourself out there, and they want her to do more like, hey, look at me, I'm doing
TikTok,
this. Yeah.
and then they're like, I'll throw up.
and,
So,
and, and I'm very grateful for her to come on the show, because she is a very busy artist, and so it was really awesome for her to come on and express herself freely. But yeah, to have that sort of looming over your head, where it's like, you got to put up like 3 TikToks a day, let's go, and
yeah.
it's like, oh fuck, dude, when do I actually like? When do I sleep? When do I eat? When do I actually create? You know what I mean? So that's really beautiful that you sort of have that relationship with a label, with a like a bigger indie label. This is, they represent some really really cool artists. So man, fucking Kaleidoscope Kid, I have had such a great time talking to you. I feel like we could go on for days, but my ass is falling asleep and I have to pee, and I bet you probably have to do similar things. So
Yeah.
I really appreciate your time, and like the conversation. I love talking about this shit, man. So talking to you was really natural. So I really appreciate that.
Totally.
And do you have any parting words you would like to leave with our audience today?
Go check out the album, April 22nd, The Kaleidoscope Kid.
Get that shit in there, April 22nd. And again, everybody, if you're listening on the audio, go and check out the link in the show notes. And of course, if you're in chat, go ahead and click on those links. It'll take you to the pre-save, take you to the websites, and make sure you get that shit. Get that shit. Don't be sitting on it. Let's go. Everybody, put your hands together for the Kaleidoscope Kid. Thank you, sir. I appreciate your time, and we'll be in contact soon about the audio release, my friend. Thank you so much. You have a great day, man. All right, peace. Oh shit! I didn't do anything.